Addressing aging stormwater infrastructure in the face of climate change and extreme weather events. This webinar is free for you, courtesy of our sponsor, AQUALIS, and our presenter today is Erin Zaske. I'll be introducing them in just a moment, but as we wait for everyone to come online, I'll cover a few housekeeping items. My name is Ryan Graff, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager at Forester University. I'll be your moderator today, behind the scenes, taking your questions for Erin throughout the broadcast so that she may address them during our Q&A session at the end. Today's webinar is scheduled for approximately 1 hour with a 15 to 20 minute Q&A session to follow. Those of you who attend the full length will be able to download a certificate with your PDH CEU credits starting tomorrow. I'll explain the process on how to download your certificate following the formal presentation. If you've joined us as a group, please send your completed group sign-in form to learning@endeavorb2b.com after the webinar. You can download a copy from the handouts area of the GoToWebinar platform. Today's broadcast is interactive, and we encourage you to ask questions throughout. You may do so by entering your questions in the question box and clicking Send. These will come to me during the presentation, and I'll pass them on to Erin to address during today's Q&A session. You may also check your audio here. If you do not have audio at any time, please note this in the chat or question boxes, and I will help you. There are a few best practices that we recommend for an enjoyable experience. First, we recommend jotting down this website, joinwebinar.com, and webinar ID 918-229-219, so that if we lose you, you can get back in quickly. Second, we recommend using a high-speed internet connection with all other windows and programs closed to avoid any audio or visual lag. And finally, we are live tweeting this webinar. You can join the conversation on Twitter by following us at @ForesterU and including #ClimateChange in your tweets. We'll be following your comments and questions during the broadcast as well as after. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's sponsor and speaker. About AQUALIS. AQUALIS is a leading nationwide provider of commercial, retail, industrial, and governmental post-construction stormwater management and lift station services through consulting, inspection, maintenance, and repair. AQUALIS caters to national retailers, logistics providers, engineering firms, hospitals, military and industrial facilities, real estate management companies, distribution centers, national and multi-state organizations, individual and commercial property owners, airports, and universities. AQUALIS's expertise includes stormwater and lift station inspections, maintenance, repair, consultations, and emergency response, as well as Vector and jetting services and CCTV pipe inspections. For more information, visit www.aqualis.com. About Erin Zaske, lots of good information on this slide. Some of the highlights include Ms. Zaske is the Chief Development Officer and a certified stormwater SCM inspection and maintenance professional for the leading stormwater management provider in the United States and Puerto Rico, AQUALIS. As the corporate development leader for AQUALIS, Erin seeks to increase stormwater awareness among property owners, provide innovative services and solutions to maintain existing stormwater assets, address aging infrastructure, and disrupt the stormwater market with new emerging technology offerings. Erin has more than 15 years of business and brand development experience in the stormwater, construction, and manufacturing industries. She also serves on the board of directors for Storm Sensor, a monitoring technology that tracks the effects of climate change and reduces the vulnerability of communities' stormwater and wastewater infrastructure. On that note, I'll go ahead and hand control over to Erin to begin today's presentation.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today to discuss how climate change is impacting stormwater infrastructure. While there is much debate regarding climate change, there are trends related to the warming of our planet from a scientific perspective and the impacts of stormwater systems. Stormwater infrastructure supports stormwater management, which is the control and use of stormwater runoff. Stormwater management includes planning for runoff, maintaining stormwater systems, and regulating the collection, storage, and movement of water. The goals of stormwater management include protecting our environment, reducing flooding to protect people and property, reducing demand on public stormwater drainage systems, supporting healthy streams and rivers, and creating healthier, more sustainable communities. As the photo here of the climate clock in Times Square displays, we are running out of time to make a positive impact on our environment. We must start analyzing these trends and make innovative solutions to address the aging infrastructure in the U.S. in relation to climate change. Today, we are going to discuss multiple climate change trends, how they are impacting stormwater, and what reactive and proactive methods we can use to address them. I'll provide examples and case studies we as an organization are doing to manage these climate trends for clients, as well as examples of how other cities are addressing these changes in regard to their stormwater management. We will also be discussing the importance of preventative maintenance, which is a driving factor in proactively addressing these changes in stormwater. Lastly, we will walk through technology and advancements in rehab, retrofit, and green infrastructure as the driving forces in the future of stormwater solutions. As Ryan mentioned, there will be time at the end of the presentation for questions. Climate change trends, how climate change is impacting stormwater. The largest strains to ecosystems and biodiversity worldwide have been shown to be land use change, climate change, and nitrogen and sulfur deposits. Climate change has many impacts, including alterations to stormwater runoff patterns. Extreme weather and wildfires have been fueled by climate change, all of which impact stormwater systems. September 2020 was the hottest month on record, and to date, 2020 has been the hottest year on record, dating back to 126 years. This past decade was also the warmest on record. Climate change is here, and it is significant, meaning more frequent flooding in the central United States, a longer and more costly wildfire season in the West, and droughts in the Great Plains. Annual precipitation averaged across the United States has increased approximately 4% from 1901 to 2015, but some areas have increases greater than the national average. We will be discussing a number of different items today in detail, including temperature changes, extreme precipitation, intense weather, hurricanes, wildfires, and snowmelt, along with the increase in 100-year storms and how these climate trends impact stormwater assets. As we discuss how climate change is affecting our environment and the influences each has over stormwater, we are also going to address how each solution is either a reactive measure or a proactive measure. Today's objective is not only to address aging stormwater infrastructure in relation to climate change, but what we can actively do to address these changes in the stormwater industry and create a plan moving forward. Relative to today's presentation, the definitions of reactive and proactive are as follows. Reactive, activities that address any issue when it comes up, responding to the problem, and dealing with emergencies or failures on a case-by-case basis. Proactive are solutions aiding in the mitigation or elimination of problems before they occur, as well as anticipating an issue and intervening to prevent future recurrence. According to the National Climate Assessment, the U.S. annual average temperature has increased by 1.3 degrees to 1.9 degrees since 1985. There were fluctuations throughout the 20th century, but warming trends remain consistent since the 1970s, with a rapid increase in temperature change. As mentioned previously, September of 2020 was the hottest month on record. The 9 months of January through September were 1.84 degrees Fahrenheit above the 20th century average, the National Centers for Environmental Information reported. 2 degrees doesn't seem like much, and arguably hard for us to even detect a temperature change of 2 degrees, but slight fluctuations in temperature can cause global effects to coral reefs and rainforests. In case studies today, we will discuss shortly, thermal pollution to stormwater systems is very much a risk to rising temperatures. Additionally, the world's oceans have absorbed 93% of the excess heat from the human-induced warming since the mid-20th century and are currently absorbing more than a quarter of the carbon dioxide emitted to the atmosphere annually from human activities, making oceans warmer and more acidic. Global ocean temperatures during September 2020 were the 4th warmest on record, and global land temperatures the warmest on record. As we've established, warming is occurring, but how does temperature impact stormwater runoff and local ecosystems? Thermal pollution is a threat to local ecologies, and stormwater runoff contributes greatly to this effect. Per definition, thermal pollution is the degradation of water quality due to unnatural changes in water temperature. Stormwater generally warms by mixing with receiving water bodies and increases the surface temperature of the water. What contributes to thermal pollution on stormwater runoff? Surface systems exposed to direct sunlight increase already elevated runoff, and impervious pavement increases the temperature of runoff. According to the EPA, asphalt can run 20 degrees Celsius warmer than sod surfaces and run off roughly 10 degrees warmer than runoff temperatures. The University of Minnesota conducted a study on thermal pollution from paved surfaces. This study found that out of 261 rainfall events in the summer, the average water temperature did change from interacting with paved surfaces. They found that when interacting with the paved surfaces, the overall temperature increase was a minimum of 37.4 degrees Fahrenheit, with a maximum of 60.62 degrees Fahrenheit. The study also concluded a relationship between the increase of rainfall temperature to runoff temperature and ground surface temperature. This warmed runoff then makes its way into the natural environment, heating the water bodies it reaches and ultimately harming the environment and aquatic life. The most at risk for thermal pollution is aquatic wildlife, with effects like decreased dissolved oxygen concentration. Warmer temperature reduces the levels of dissolved oxygen in water, which can in turn suffocate plants and animals while also giving life to nuisance algae. Reduction in reproduction in wildlife and reduced egg survival, as well as mass deaths in aquatic species. Warmer water can prove to be beneficial to some species, while for some it can be deadly. Many aquatic species are sensitive to even the smallest temperature change that impacts metabolism and other biological effects. How do we address thermal pollution in stormwater? We can take a completely reactive approach by introducing new wildlife to ponds after thermal pollution has created ecology issues in the pond, but this will only last until another warm rain event. Additionally, we can monitor the temperatures in our stormwater ponds, but what action can we take when we find out the temperature has increased? It's often too late at that point. A reactive approach could be to increase capacity to dilute the increased temperature with the runoff with more of a temperature-controlled pooling of water. Proactive approaches include utilizing technology and data from it to make predictions on thermal changes to make the appropriate retrofit or rehab changes. When it comes to retrofits, underground piping is found to have cooling effects on stormwater runoff, reducing risks to wildlife and local watershed, which is an option for ponds that are most at risk with runoff coming from impervious pavement. Designing new systems with increased pervious pavement would be beneficial, as found in a study published by MDPI's Hydrology, an international peer-reviewed open access journal in 2019. A thermal spike was identified in all impervious pavement stormwater runoff datasets during their study of thermal characteristics of stormwater runoff. A temperature spike occurred within the first 5 minutes of exposure to rainfall. One surprising and beneficial finding of this study is the apparent higher capacity of pervious pavements to capture and exchange heat compared with impervious pavements. Another proactive approach includes increasing low-impact designs where appropriate to further treat runoff, collect pollutants, and reduce thermal pollution. In the stormwater industry, we talk at length about the 100-year storm. The 100-year storm is a massive storm that causes, statistically speaking, a 100-year rain event. These storms have a 1% chance of occurring every year. That doesn't mean that these storms only occur once every 100 years. Some can occur twice in a year or consecutive years. A 100-year storm doesn't always equate to a 100-year flood. Flooding takes into account effects of rainfall, soil saturation, and pavement development, all contributing factors to flooding. For example, a region like Florida, during their rainy season in the summer, with already saturated soils, would be at a higher risk for flooding during an extreme rainfall event. What we are finding is these storms are not coming every century, or twice a century, but every decade. Yes, every 10 years, and in some cases every year. According to flood maps developed in 2019, 10-year storms and flooding are likely to occur, 100-year storms and flooding are likely to occur every 1 to 30 years in coastal regions in the U.S. As this graph shows, the change in heavy precipitation has impacted the Northeast and the Midwest the greatest, and as overall, precipitation may decrease in places like the Southwest. The amount of rainfall in heavy rain events is expected to increase. Unexpected heavy rainfall events are one of the largest threats to stormwater systems, as they are typically unpredictable and move water quickly through systems that were designed for less rainfall. There isn't much relief in sight, as the EPA predicts national 100-year flood increases of 45% by the year 2100. As we've seen in Houston over the past few years, scientists underestimated how vulnerable Houston would be to flooding. As of 2017, Houston has seen its third 500-year flood in 3 years. That includes Hurricane Harvey in 2017, which was the fifth 500-year flood to hit Texas since 2010. These extreme rain events and flooding are occurring all over the United States. In addition to causing catastrophic damage to local properties, the 100-year storm places intense stress on aging stormwater systems. Already aging infrastructure is reaching its capacity sooner than calculated, as currently designed stormwater control measures, or SCMs, cannot withstand 2.5 times their capacity, putting these systems in nearby areas at a greater risk for flooding. We see stormwater failures leading to emergency calls and repairs due to flooding after these recent storms. Unpredictable rainfall, or not accounting for these changes in predictions for increased rainfall, causes systems to fail sooner. When the rainfall is extremely high, there is less time for systems to filter pollutants in the runoff that eventually end up in our local watersheds, and high runoff disrupts any settling process of sediment in the ponds. Data for calculation precipitation is usually outdated and not accounting for the recent trends in high precipitation that we just discussed. When it comes to climate change, stormwater runoff is most impactful to systems. This is what SCMs were designed to do, to treat and manage runoff from rain events. However, systems are dated and aging. To continue to have systems function as designed, we must continue to innovate and adapt with new methods to treat these extreme rain events. Reactive approaches to treatment in extreme rain events include expediting drawdown after a rain event. This is a typical practice in response to extreme rain. Monitoring runoff levels after a storm. This should always be done after a 1-inch rain event to ensure systems are still working as designed. Any repairs due to flooding. This is when a system will fail if not properly maintained. Most emergency repairs come in response to pooling water or overflows in parking lots, and all can easily be prevented with preventative maintenance. Proactive approaches heavily rely on preventative maintenance, including dam slope inspections, a common failure from rain events, and an example we will discuss in the next case study. I can't say this enough. Proper preventative maintenance is key to proactive solutions to extreme rain events. By having preventative maintenance performed, common failures can be identified and solutions provided before a major repair is required. Completing retrofit and rehabilitation to meet new precipitation calculations from new projected data. This is also where having data and history of a system through preventative maintenance can assist in making the right decisions for rehab and retrofits. Monitoring systems by utilizing technology, identifying if there are issues before a major storm so they can be handled before any flooding or major damage can occur. This site in Raleigh, North Carolina is under a maintenance agreement with AQUALIS. Previously, preventative sealing was completed on the site a year before this major failure. If these seals had not been treated during that time, it could have been more costly and caused more catastrophic flooding to the area than what was discovered at the scheduled maintenance visit. The following issues and photos shown were documented during a maintenance visit to the stormwater facility in May of this year. Our crews discovered sudden, rapid soil loss outside one corner of one of the overflow high-volume risers in the retention pond, and sediment was suddenly visible in the sumps of both overflow risers, indicating that there may have been a leaky joint in the short pipe run between the two structures. Since there were no obvious leaks in the upstream unit, sediment entering the system at the leaking joint may have been back flushing upstream with higher than usual water pressure from a multi-day rain event. AQUALIS proactively sealed the entire interior of both overflow units while leaks were still small. Additionally, while completing the repair, the crew identified a large void that formed beneath the length of approximately 70-foot discharge of pipe. To repair it, it required additional anti-seep collars and additional compactable fill to finish the project. As showcased in the pictures here, we have historical data, including photos that allow for thorough and accurate repairs, as we are the maintenance provider. This site has monthly preventative maintenance, and the first photo shows the previous visit in April with no evidence of soil loss around the structures and interiors, as they are clean and dry in comparison to the month later visit that indicates the soil loss and sediment visibly shown in both structures due to a recent multi-day rain event. For the repair, AQUALIS excavated out the compromised soils between the two overflow control risers and set up forms around the pipe joints for stability and poured and finished concrete into anti-seep collars. To treat the micro cracks in the interior of the risers, the mortar was resealed and compromised soils were removed. Molds were also installed to form shape of anti-seep collar around the pipe joint behind the head wall. To finalize the project, we used compactable fill between the two overflow control risers and stabilized any disturbed soils. This project was completed in June of 2020. The initial repair, using common practices, did not hold up to a major rain event, which we are seeing more frequently. To adequately rebuild the dam and address the issue, we engaged a geotech engineer who suggested a concrete cradle be installed along the length of the discharge pipe. Since this repair in August, the slope has held up very well with the cradle installation. We continue to monitor this asset during any significant rainstorms or light rain. This is a great example on how these extreme rain events are putting strain on systems and impact common retrofit practices today. It is not new news that 2020 has been one of the most active hurricane seasons in history. However, intensity of storms and frequency of hurricanes have increased since 1970. While projections indicate that there won't be more hurricanes like we saw this hurricane season, which has so far produced 29 named storms, we do anticipate seeing an increase in major hurricanes of categories 4 and 5. Higher sea levels and warmer surface temperature, as we discussed previously, have all been known indicators to impact hurricane intensity. Additionally, we have seen a 6 to 8 inch higher sea level since 1900, which increases the height or storm surge for coastal regions, as we've seen in the last 20 years, like from hurricanes Katrina and Michael. Storm surge is more deadly and costly than rain from a hurricane. Coastal regions should be putting more emphasis on emerging stormwater solutions, as they are at greater risk for major failures and catastrophes to systems due to storm surge. When we talk about stormwater, our first thought is often rain and water runoff. However, it's not just the rain and runoff that impacts stormwater infrastructure. Storm surge and high winds are both major concerns when a tropical storm or hurricane makes landfall, and as we discussed in the last slide, storm surge impacts are increasing due to climate change. With storm surge comes quicker flooding. Unfortunately, there is no way of monitoring a stormwater system during a storm outside of technology, which we will discuss later in this presentation. Powerful winds can lead to power outages that halt operations at portions of your stormwater system that require electricity to function, as well as blow debris into or onto stormwater infrastructure, causing clogs or blockages to the system. Costly emergency repairs, including dam failures, result in major property damage, sediment loading, and erosion throughout systems or damage to recently completed capital projects. Additionally, many below-ground assets are at risk structurally due to age, as the average wastewater and stormwater infrastructure in the U.S. is more than 100 years old. Public water supply is at high risk for contamination, as hurricanes can cause cracked water lines from trees that have been uprooted. In 2012, following Hurricane Sandy, the Northeast saw significant damage to more than 100 facilities that supply drinking water to residents and sewage treatment plants. Hurricane Sandy resulted in $2.6 billion to repair, rehab, and increase the sustainability of these systems. Similar to what we've discussed in the extreme rain events, but some different here for proactive approaches include drawing the pond down prior to the storm. Routine inspections are still critical in removing debris around your assets to prevent any blockage and testing of systems to ensure they are functioning properly. Continue to evaluate if flooding is occurring on a frequent basis that retrofit or rehabilitation is needed for additional capacity, especially in areas most prone to hurricane activity. Utilizing technology to monitor before a storm to assess overall health of the system. This data is essential for determining the priority of retrofit or rehab for systems. Accessing and testing backup energy that extend more than one day. It is essential to prepare systems and have a plan before hurricane season. This means planning as early as January, setting up preventative maintenance plans, and strategically planning repairs before hurricane season, which I will walk through a checklist later in this presentation so that you are fully prepared for an extreme rain event. As of August this year, South Carolina had an increased chance of hurricane landfall from 18% on an average year to 27% of hurricane landfall. It is safe to say that South Carolina must respond to rising sea levels, threats of hurricane, and extreme rain events. As part of that initiative, Charleston, South Carolina is making proactive improvements across the city to increase sustainability and mitigate future flooding. As part of their 5-year capital improvement plan, they are addressing stormwater drainage projects as a short and long-term capital need for the city. One great example is the Forest Acres project that was completed for Phase 1 in 2018, even being awarded the South Carolina American Public Works Project of the Year. According to the City of Charleston, South Carolina, the existing pump station consisted of a wet well with a single vertical pump, originally from 1968, discharging through a single 48-inch concrete pipe. The stormwater pump station is powered by electricity from overhead power lines and has no emergency backup generator. The station pumped stormwater approximately 1 mile east through a gravity flow pipeline located in the West Ashley Bikeway to where it discharged into the Ashley River. This proved to cause significant flooding during extreme rain events from tropical storms and hurricanes, as a lack of backup generator would cause for flooding to occur quickly and typically knee-deep in height. The solution, which is an $11.4 million project, consists of utilizing gravity to manage drainage to avoid the use of electricity or power backup. The new system uses wide stormwater channels and dual large culverts to direct drainage eventually to the Ashley River. This large initiative showcases the need to innovate with solutions that consider multiple problems, including electricity during a storm, proper drainage that does not impact traffic or damage property, and is still aesthetically pleasing. This project resulted in a paved bike path where the community can now enjoy this new stormwater solution in multiple ways. As extreme weather is on the rise, including higher temperatures and climates that are drier in nature, wildfire is on the increase as of the last 2 decades, with double the number of acres burned since 2000 in comparison to the 1990s. There are 3 factors in which fire needs to thrive. First, the right weather and climate conditions. Warmer weather and drier seasons where rainy season does not usually begin until October. Like a hurricane season, fire season runs from June to September, typically when drought conditions can be expected. Burnable fuel. With warmer atmosphere, water is being absorbed at a rapid rate, including plants, soil, lakes, and rivers all being absorbed, leading to an increase in flammable materials. Spark. Only 10 to 15% of wildfires occur naturally. Human activity, like unattended campfires, cigarettes, or gender reveal parties, as we saw this year, all can be the spark in the right conditions to burn acres or land, destroying property, homes, and local environments. Increase in urban development has also reduced the natural cooling effects from trees. In fact, just trees shading of a neighborhood can provide 6 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than neighborhoods without tree vegetation. Also a great solution for thermal pollution. This is an excellent example from FEMA around the risk of flooding after a fire, especially for those at the bottom degree of a slope. Floods pick up the charred debris from the wildfire and deposit directly into stormwater assets, clogging systems requiring costly repairs. In stormwater, it seems like water is what matters. However, there are so many contributing factors to impacts on water quality, sediment buildup, and flooding that can result from wildfires. Hydrophobic conditions is the inability to absorb water due to intense heat. Essentially, the grounds after the fire will repel water, causing increased chances of flooding. Ash deposition and accumulation can clog systems. However, if systems are maintained per O&M agreements, They should effectively trap the ash in the muddy bottoms of the settling ponds. Heavy metal contaminants can make their way into runoff after a first rain after a fire. Systems may not pass an inspection due to the ash accumulation and water quality. It is essential that a window of 7 to 10 days after a fire, a water quality test is completed. Filters that remove pollutants will need to be replaced sooner after a fire and important to monitor that these filters continue to function as designed and replaced as needed or additional capacity added if in a fire-prone area. Reactive solutions for stormwater in response to wildfires include pH balance testing after wildfires and proper treatment if at high levels. Monitoring runoff after a storm due to the hydrophobic conditions, a rain event that may not be extreme in another region could pose to be an extreme amount when precipitation can't be absorbed by the soil. Removal of any ash accumulation, if excessive and not settling in the pond. Important that this is monitored and if systems are not being maintained properly before an event, ash accumulation could pose as a major threat to the system. Replace any filters after a wildfire to ensure these are continuing to function as designed to filter pollutants. Proactive approaches in relation to wildfires include routine inspections and preventative maintenance, retrofit and rehab for additional capacity, monitoring systems before a rainstorm and shortly after a fire to reduce risks of flooding, prioritizing wetlands and dams that have been shown to be a great treatment for preventing wildfires. After recent wildfires in Albany, Oregon, our crews tended to our sites that have contracted maintenance programs. As recommended following a fire in the area, monitoring and visiting sites within 7 to 10 days to assess potential wildfire effects to stormwater assets is imperative. As pictured here, you can see ash accumulation on the pond surface. pH testing to monitor any levels that would require treatment is necessary. The solutions to these issues are as follows. How to treat pH. You can aerate and add a fountain to stimulate the release of carbon dioxide, which will break up and form carbonic acid, which will help lower the pH. As mentioned before, the nature of the system often mitigates the issues that ash can create. These settling ponds can effectively trap the ash in the muddy bottom. The desirable emergent plants, like common rush grass, will absorb pollutants like heavy metals. For major accumulation events, we can bring in temporary treatment units that constantly cycle the water out and back in, like a massive dialysis system. We can neutralize the pH and absorb pollutants and metals from the water by using oyster shells at strategic locations. Ash treatment is one of the many stormwater applications using oyster shells shoveled directly into stormwater catch basins to absorb heavy metals, with the goal of increasing water hardness and decreasing metals. The oyster shells help counteract the pH of the stormwater and reduce the solubility of pollutants through neutralization and surface absorption. The Port of Seattle claims to reduce copper up to 50% by utilizing this method. Climate trends indicate an increase in intensity of snowstorms when they do occur. However, there has been a decrease in intensity in snowstorms in the last 20 years due to rising temperatures. Since 1972, snow coverage season has decreased by 2 weeks, causing earlier than normal snowmelt, putting further stress on stormwater assets. 2020 winter predictions, according to the National Weather Service, predict above warmer and drier conditions in the south and wetter and cooler in the north, specifically in the Pacific Northwest, Northern Plains, Great Lakes, and into the Ohio Valley. Snowmelt presents some unique challenges to stormwater systems. Since freezing temperatures cause the surface of the ground to be frozen, snowmelt can't infiltrate the ground. Even minor amounts of snow can increase the chance of flooding in the right conditions, When this snow does eventually melt, it picks up debris just as an extreme rainstorm would, all with the potential to cause blockage in the systems and inevitably lead to flooding. Also, as the snow melt occurs, it is picking up pollutants on the road from de-icing salts and other chemicals. Snow carries more pollutants, especially airborne pollutants, as the snow is exposed for longer before it melts. The most at risk for heavy pollution and impacts is the last snowmelt of the season. Mixed with a small rain event, this can lead to high concentration of pollutants and a high runoff volume, putting extreme stress on your stormwater system. As pictured here from one of the sites in which we maintain, you can see the piles of snow are piled onto the curbs where a catch basin is located, leading to potential blockage and potentially causing issues long term. Snowmelt presents interesting reactive and proactive solutions for stormwater. Reactive solutions include monitoring runoff levels after a storm. This assumes that you have a preventative maintenance partner to assist, as these systems can be hard to access if snow buildup is present. Clearing snow from catch basins. As you saw in the previous slide, it is common for snowplows in parking lots to pile snow on top of catch basins due to the nature of their location. Correction of any damage from snowplows. Due to the location of catch basins, we typically see cracks in the foundations and compromises to the basins that impact runoff and the ability to properly catch debris as the basins are designed. Proactive solutions include, and I will sound repetitive here, these solutions all assume that the stormwater system is being maintained as designed. If not, these proactive solutions will not be effective. Preventative maintenance is still so important during the winter months to ensure systems can continue to operate as designed. Technology is a great solution for monitoring capacity, especially if it is hard to access the site due to snow buildup, and utilizing this data can prioritize any retrofit or rehab that could increase capacity and function for the system. Scheduling preventative maintenance before the last snowmelt, which can produce the largest amount of runoff, especially if combined with a rain event. Looking into increasing capacity in retention ponds or underground tanks that can hold the runoff and properly manage the snowmelt can impact major cities. As we've seen in cities like Spokane, Washington, the development of massive tanks that are designed to hold stormwater from snowmelt can no longer overwhelm the city's combined sewer and stormwater systems. The tanks temporarily hold the runoff to eventually pipe into the system to reach the treatment plant. These are some examples of common issues we see regarding increasing snowmelt in different regions. These examples focus on Michigan and 2 different sites in the state, but these apply to most sites in the north. Problems we see routinely include excess salt and sand mix sediment in parking lots, docks, and ponds, and this sediment can create blockages in catch basins. We also see fluid leaks from heavy equipment that is typically stored year-round in the parking lots that eventually reaches catch basins, impacting water quality. There are a few solutions to these issues we see at the sites and how we treat them. Street sweeping is commonly done almost daily at sites with this amount of buildup still occurring daily. Maintenance and monitoring is typically done on site to prevent any blockages that can cause catch basins to not function as designed. Additionally, utilizing industrial vacuum trucks to remove the excess sediment is something that we use as a treatment option to reduce and remove buildup. As a maintenance provider and protector of local watersheds, we look for any potential contaminants in stormwater systems when on site. We see this far too often with heavy equipment, including snowplows that are stored year-round in parking lots or local properties. We monitor these situations should treatment be necessary, but there are proactive items that can be done, like adding absorbents underneath these vehicles to capture the fluids before they reach the pavement and ultimately reach the catch basin. In the photo on the right, you can see a solution of an oil absorbent to catch the pollutant before it reaches the asset. Utilizing filters in the catch basin is also a treatment option to absorb the pollutant runoff before it impacts local watersheds. Preventative maintenance and checklists for preparing systems for extreme weather. Before we talk about the importance of preventative maintenance, Ryan is going to interrupt to poll attendees to see how stormwater is managed in your region.
Awesome. Well, thank you there, Erin. Folks, as Erin just said, we're going to go ahead and pause for a quick moment to poll everyone real fast. This is our one and only poll question of today's presentation. So the question here is, how do you see stormwater being managed in your region? Choices are A, stormwater management provider, B, I think that's supposed to say landscape provider, C, handled internally, or D, do not have a preventative maintenance plan. I'm going to go ahead here and launch what we call the quick poll widget here in just a quick second. And you'll be able to input directly into that. I'm having just a little bit of trouble getting this thing started, so if you folks will just bear with me real fast, we'll be able to go ahead and do this for you. My apologies, Erin. It opened it and then it slammed it shut right away, and so I'm having to just kind of recreate it real fast, and we'll make sure that we get it set for everyone. Again, I guess in the meantime, I'll go ahead and reread the options just so that when we do get it launched, we'll be all set here. A, stormwater management provider, B, landscape provider, C, handled internally, or D, do not have a preventative maintenance plan. We're just a moment away here, I do promise. Folks, if you'll hold off on putting them in the chat box, we're actually going to go ahead and launch a widget for these. So there we are. That should be open for you. And for those not familiar, you can just cast your vote directly into one of those little bubbles. Again, how do you see stormwater being managed in your region? A, stormwater management provider, B, landscape provider, C, handled internally, D, do not have preventative maintenance plan. We're already up to about 3/4 voted, so we'll just give everyone a couple more moments here to submit their responses as well. Erin, I did get one question, and maybe you can kind of elaborate on this a little bit more. What do we mean by handled internally here?
That is if you have someone at your facility or within your municipality that is managing your stormwater assets.
Awesome, thank you, Erin. All right, folks, we've been open for just about a minute and we have 80% voted, so let's go ahead and consider that good enough. I don't want to take up too much more of Erin's time, so let's close this out and share those responses with you. So actually it's C, handled internally, that ends up winning at 42%, followed by A, stormwater management provider at 36%. 16% say D, do not have a preventative maintenance plan, and then just 6% said B, landscape provider. Thank you all for your participation in that.
Thank you, Ryan. And I do apologize. We just had a major storm move in here, so it might get a little bit noisy in the background. Jumping into preventative maintenance, the goals of stormwater management include protecting our environment, reducing flooding to protect people and property, reducing demand on public stormwater drainage systems, supporting healthy streams and rivers, and creating healthier, more sustainable communities. We tend to find many landscapers performing maintenance on stormwater systems, but just addressing vegetation is not enough to keep SCMs in compliance and performing at design capacity to properly manage increased runoff due to climate change. We know that for every $1 spent on stormwater maintenance, we expect $4 in cost savings and loss avoidance, if not more, financially and environmentally. Preventative maintenance is the solution for keeping systems functioning in order to meet the new demands for climate change. Regular maintenance of stormwater infrastructure reduces the risk of system failures and the frequency of costly restorative repairs, and as I presented earlier, is always the proactive solution to treatment of all extreme weather. Our crews perform with 3 to 4 individuals stationed in geographies across the United States. Our team members, including our administrative team, are all certified for stormwater inspections and maintenance. We establish a frequency of visits throughout the year based on the specifics to the locations and the potential needs or threats to the systems, as well as the O&M agreements established with municipalities. For more than 20 years, this has provided us a firsthand view of how these climate trends are impacting stormwater. Whether you are in Florida experiencing threats of extreme rain in the summer, or in Washington experiencing snowmelt in the spring, we address each key geography based on their specific needs. The solution that has been consistent throughout this webinar is the importance of preventative maintenance. What we know is that these systems were designed to hold large capacities and be prepared for a 100-year storm or flooding. This should be the time for your stormwater asset to showcase what it is meant to do. That being said, it is only as good as it is maintained. This checklist is at the minimum what should be done to protect stormwater assets in the event of extreme weather or rain events. It is essential to have a preventative maintenance agreement to regulate water flow, clear trash and debris, and manage vegetation. Test emergency generators and inspect pipes for any signs of damage or weak points. You can lower water levels to increase holding capacity in advance of storm events. Inspection of systems after a 1-inch rain event or more can give you a lot of insight to how the stormwater system is functioning. Evaluate water quality for pollutants and toxins. Most importantly, partnering with a stormwater management organization that will assist you with all of the tasks listed above. The future of stormwater. As we've established, we need data to drive our next steps in stormwater. With information within reach always, it's time to adjust how we approach aging infrastructure and capture a full picture of how stormwater is managed in systems with the use of technology. We can use data from sensor technology to understand how best to rehab or retrofit to meet new capacity needs, and we can enhance further stormwater design to meet new capacity requirements. Overall, data allows us to make better budget decisions, prioritize repair projects amongst multiple SCM assets, and identify failures or flooding potential all before an extreme weather event occurs. As in most industries, technology is an important resource for capturing data and improving systems, and is now available for stormwater. AQUALIS is a cloud-based networked sensors that monitor the health and status of SCMs in real time, all within a dashboard accessible from your desktop or mobile device. The system allows for monitoring across multiple geographies to compare data to make preventative decisions before extreme weather impacts the region. The system includes weather forecasts and alerts to prevent any major catastrophe to the system before it occurs. Insights provided by the sensor system give municipal and property owners the information to make appropriate rehab or retrofit decisions and planning for the future. This is a view of the dashboard that is provided to users with key data points that can assist in monitoring systems. AQUALIS monitors water temperature. This can assist in monitoring systems prone to impacts from thermal pollution. Total outflow gives you an overall health assessment on your system and if functioning as designed. Total precipitation, accurate precipitation and how that impacts the system through outflow. And total capacity, monitoring capacity and receiving alerts when a critical level would require intervention. This system gives you a holistic view to make decisions on how to prioritize repairs, alert maintenance crews on potential needs for monitoring, and overall provides data that can assist in making decisions for other properties or projects. The technology surrounding these sensors will continue to improve and advance to further meet the needs of municipalities and property owners in the future. In addition to technology, the future of stormwater is not only addressing aging infrastructure, but also considering climate trends that put further stress on stormwater systems. With urban populations expected to grow to nearly 70% by 2050 and more frequent and intense storms occurring across the country, there is ever-increasing pressure on stormwater systems and water infrastructure. Taking these into consideration is essential as we repair, rehab, or retrofit systems across the United States. We know that existing SCMs often fall short of meeting water quantity and water quality needs. How can we address these for future stormwater assets? For water quantity, we can increase capacity for newly designed and rehab current assets to manage these intense rain events above and below ground. We can expand the use of permeable pavement, increase holding capacity in ponds, utilizing underground vaults with additional capacity. We need to treat additional pollutants with the install of more filters and replacement on a more frequent basis. We can utilize technology, as we just discussed, to make informed decisions to properly rehab systems. For water quality, we can address these needs by introducing further green infrastructure through bioretention ponds, green roof expansion, and rain gardens, as well as extend the holding time for runoff. As we look at the future of stormwater, we know that rehabbing existing gray infrastructure is essential, as well as continuing to introduce more green infrastructure. As we presented earlier, additional green infrastructure has shown to treat and manage many issues that climate change is presenting. As we talk about the future of stormwater and the changes that need to be made to combat climate change, I wanted to share a recent green roof study that our environmental interns conducted this past summer. This client, located in Chicago, required a cost-effective way to manage stormwater runoff. As we established most urban areas, stormwater runoff is a major concern due to the lack of pervious surfaces that naturally absorb and filter stormwater and the impacts of thermal pollution from the heat island effect. With much of urban areas being dominated by non-natural features, habitat for many insect populations is dwindling, along with climate impacts as we established are causing declines of bees and pollinators globally. Specifically, the changes in seasons, with snowmelt occurring later in the season or air temperature increasing, pollinators can become out of sync and ultimately miss peak pollination windows. As part of AQUALIS's Root for Nature program, we established pollinator gardens to assist in providing habitats that increase pollination of pollinator species. Through this retrofit project, AQUALIS provided research opportunities for college student interns. In 2020, interns planted a pollinator garden on the green roof and monitored subsequent use of this area by insects to determine if this green infrastructure asset would support natural biodiversity. The interns found that the insects did use the garden more frequently than an area of traditional green roof vegetation and an area of the non-vegetated bare roof. This finding suggests that green roofs can not only solve stormwater management issues, but can also support an increase of biodiversity within urbanized areas. Solutions to climate change can be innovative as well as reactive or proactive, from technology all the way to green infrastructure. It is the combination of innovative solutions that will make the biggest difference in stormwater for the next decade and century. We must work together to find the solutions, share in what is working, and educate property owners and communities the importance of cohesively being proactive to climate change and the impacts to stormwater. If these climate change trends are not addressed regarding stormwater, the path may be flooded and closed for future generations. But if we can come together to find innovative solutions to aging infrastructure and support these changes, our path will be clear for stormwater. Who is AQUALIS? AQUALIS is the leading nationwide provider of stormwater and lift station management services. These services include preventative maintenance, corrective maintenance or repairs, retrofit and redesign, as well as emergency response. AQUALIS helps protect your assets, mitigating notices of violation on stormwater control measures, diminishing flooding risks, and supporting your efforts in environmental stewardship. We partner with retail, commercial, industrial, municipal, healthcare, hospitality, educational, and governmental industries. We service single-site and multi-state organizations through our preventative maintenance programs. With more than 20 years of experience in the water resource industry, AQUALIS provides innovative and leading-edge solutions to meet budget constraints and exceed compliance expectations. With programs that ensure quality, like our Quality Asset Program, we strive to deliver an exceptional client and raving fan experience. As the leader in stormwater and lift station management, we are pleased to partner with and educate property owners on the importance of preventative maintenance and water compliance. With AQUALIS preventative maintenance programs, we can help building owners and facility managers avoid costly violations, reduce liability, improve system performance, and increase overall property safety. We are a team that prides ourselves in safety, compliance, and education. Our teams are highly specialized in their fields, from stormwater inspectors to certified small space training. Our certifications include state-level certificates where applicable, as well as product-specific certifications to properly install and manage these stormwater assets. Many of these certifications include routine, continuing education for renewal to ensure that we are following the most up-to-date regulations and processes. If you are interested in learning more about the AQUALIS difference and partnering with a stormwater management or lift station provider, you can reach out to us directly on our website at aqualisco.com. That's AQUALISCO.com. I appreciate your time today as we end our formal presentation, and will hand things back to Ryan to assist in facilitating the Q&A session of this webinar.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Erin, for such an informative and thought-provoking talk today. Folks, as Erin just said, I do have a few housekeeping items to go over before we'll then begin today's Q&A session. As you can see here on this slide, first, your feedback is important to us, so please take a moment to complete the short survey that will pop up after the broadcast is complete. Second, prior to the webinar, we emailed out a link to the PDF of today's presentation. If you did not receive it, you can download a copy from the handouts area of the GoToWebinar platform. Third, we're recording this broadcast in full, so if you've missed any part of it or would like to view it again, you may do so via the link that we will email out tomorrow. As a reminder, if you're watching as a group, please download the group sign-in form, also available in the handouts area. Complete it and send it to learning@endeavorb2b.com. And we usually receive a lot of follow-up questions on certificates, and we do have quite a few folks on this live broadcast today. So if everyone will please take careful note on this next part. Those of you who have attended the full length of today's webinar will be able to download a certificate with your PDH CEU credits, and that's starting tomorrow at noon Pacific time. We do not email everyone their certificate, so obtaining it requires just a few steps on your part. Tomorrow afternoon, simply visit our website, foresteruniversity.net, log into your account. This will take you directly to the courses and training tab, and from there you can find today's webinar in the listing and select print certificate. As always, please don't hesitate to send us an email or give us a call if you have any trouble accessing your account or certificate. With that, Erin, we can flip to the next slide, please, and we'll go ahead and open it on up for questions. Folks, at this time, I'd like to introduce AQUALIS's Michael Brewer, Executive Vice President, Client Services. or client success rather, who is joining us for today's Q&A to help Erin field your questions. There are many in the queue already, so we'll try to get to as many as we can and then follow up with the others via email. So why don't we just go ahead and take them in the order in which they came in. So this first one, first word comes from Spencer. And Spencer's asking, Erin, do you anticipate a need for emergency treatment systems for sediment runoff during large storm events as a part of stormwater infrastructure?
Sorry, Ryan, can you repeat that one more time?
Absolutely, yeah. Spencer asks, do you anticipate a need for emergency treatment systems for sediment runoff during large storm events as a part of stormwater infrastructure?
I do think
Erin,
it is a, yep, go ahead, Michael.
I was going to say, I just happy to take this. So I think it needs to be considered. A lot of it is going to be dependent upon if this is a reference to a construction project. You know, it depends on what stage or what condition the asset or site is in, if it's during construction or if the site has been finished and developed and currently in use. You know, the methods to address sediment impacts are going to be slightly different, but in terms of on construction sites, I think having a plan for a way to address sediment issues is going to be necessary and probably part of your permit. And it's going to be less of a need on sites that are established with adequate ground cover. Ground cover is going to be one of the main reasons why soils will stay in place during large events.
Great. Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you for your question there, Spencer. The next one comes from Ravi, and Ravi is asking, can't the filters installed in the stormwater systems be backflushed in order to prevent frequent replacement of the filters?
It depends on what type of media it is and what type of contaminants it's trying to capture. There are certain instances when backflow does work, but again, it would depend on what type of filter it is and what the manufacturer recommends or suggests is an option. And then obviously it's going to be dependent upon what the regulators will allow as well. So sometimes they have a differing opinion on what's the right way to do it. So I would recommend if there's a specific example or specific issue, we're happy to take a look at it.
Awesome. Thank you for posing that question there, Ravi. Next one is in from Jose, and Jose is posing, how do you keep control and organize the maintenance on storm inlets and outlets, and how would you recommend doing that?
So we recommend, as part of our preventative maintenance practices, to keep storm drains, inlets, and outlets free and clear of debris, which is usually done in advance of storm water events and then right after stormwater events. So keeping sediment, keeping trash, debris, sticks, things of that nature that could clog up these systems, keeping them out of these pathways are going to be very important. So I would suggest a frequent walkthrough of the property and removing that debris when it's present.
Very well. Thank you so much there, Jose. Next one is from Julian, and Julian asks, are there long-term or permanent curb inlets available for sediment control for parking lots?
Can you ask that question one more time?
Sure. Are there long-term or permanent curb inlets available for sediment control for parking lots?
Yes, I think that they're maybe the question is referring to like sediment filter, sediment traps in existing structures. The answer is absolutely. You know, we've got some sites that we maintain that have permanent filter bags, permanent chambers within their structures that do collect sediment. And during our preventative maintenance visits, we will remove those filters or inspect those chambers to remove sediment when it gets to a certain level. And if you have specific requests as to what the asset is, I'm happy to provide you with specific options for you in terms of permanent solutions.
Terrific. Well, thanks there, Julian. Let's go back to Ravi for a follow-up question. This time posing, how are rising sea levels impacting existing stormwater infrastructure? Is there an easy fix?
That's a great question. There's no easy fix. I would say absolutely they're impacting existing stormwater structures, particularly at lower elevations near coastlines, where we are seeing tidal changes. And with the increase in water levels, those tidal changes are even greater, particularly during storm surges. And so when those systems are taking large amounts of rain, but then also impacted by water coming into the system from tidal flows or from storm surges, you get that kind of reverse effect, and the water ultimately has nowhere to go. So, you know, we are seeing a lot of that down in Florida. I mean, as we speak, we've seen since Sunday 18 plus inches of rainfall in parts of southern Florida, and we are truly at the mercy of gravity and the water levels in the sea. And until they come down, there's not a lot of that we can do in terms of pumping. There's nowhere for the water to go. So the solutions are going to be found in, you know, backflow prevention and increasing the elevations of the barriers between the property lines, quite honestly.
Alrighty, well, thank you there, Ravi, for your follow-up question. I have time for just a couple more here, so we'll try to squeeze a few more in before we are kind of up against our 90-minute block here. But again, of course, we'll follow up via email with any that we don't get around to. Let's see, let's look down the list. Here's one from Tim. And Tim asks, what sort of remote stormwater monitoring devices are typically installed in SCMs?
So we are seeing an increase of a demand for this type of monitoring device. There's technology out there on the market that can control flow rates, that can control water levels and water temperature. You know, there's different types of sensors that can be installed. We're also looking at some GIS solutions, and the beauty of these is that they can be installed retroactively. So you can have an existing system. We can come in and install storm sensors to help achieve whatever whatever the target or desired information retrieve is. And again, it's tough to answer if without knowing the exact or specifics of the site. But the beauty of some of these systems is that they can be viewed live time, real time rather. And for instance, we have our client portals that have visibility into some of our storm sensors, and it's really a great way for us to monitor and manage the stormwater systems without being on site.
Good deal. Appreciate your question there, Tim. I'm going to take two more. This first one comes from Elizabeth, and Elizabeth asks, does AQUALIS provide maintenance for permeable pavers, vacuum sweeping, and joint stone reinstatement?
We absolutely do. It would depend upon what market you're currently in. We'd love to take a look at it. Regardless, we can provide you with a solution. There's lots of different ways to maintain permeable pavement, and depending on what type of pavement you've got, whether it's asphalt or concrete or pavers, and the different site conditions and the different maintenance practices on site, we can put in place a preventative maintenance plan that would achieve the goals that you're trying to get to.
Great, thanks there, Elizabeth. Let's go ahead and give Ronnie the final word here of today's Q&A session. Some really great questions across the board, so much appreciation going out to everyone's participation today. Ronnie's question, often resizing culverts calls for larger open area, causing volume of water held at the inlet in larger rain events. What are your thoughts on this?
So I've got a lot of thoughts. I think that it's going to be determined. The answer is going to be based on some site specifics. There, we regularly will reset culvert pipes and drainage swales. The design of the pipe itself is very important to achieve certain results, and so in some instances, having a retrofitted inlet will increase the capacity of the existing pipe, and so there's ways in which we can alter the drainage area and also the inlet to the pipe, and of course the pipe itself if necessary. But obviously we try to avoid pipe replacement at all costs, and so we do look at creative solutions to those drainage areas if possible. I'm happy to take a look at anything that you've got, and can help you with your specific site.
Great. Well, thank you there, Ronnie, as well as to everyone else who asked a question as part of today's Q&A session. As I said before, we'll go ahead and conclude there for today, just trying to be respectful of everyone's time, but we will follow up with the rest via email. Before we say goodbye, though, Erin and even Michael, just wanted to see if you have any kind of final comments, advice, parting words, words of wisdom that you'd like to leave us with today. I know the previous slide also had some information on how to better get in touch with AQUALIS.
Yeah, so I think the most important thing, as I spoke to frequently, was the importance of having a preventative maintenance program in place. Oftentimes, that is the most proactive one can be. If you're out visiting the sites frequently, then you are more aware of any issues that could become a larger issue during a catastrophic storm, and can prevent some of that prior to occurrence.
Anything on your end, Michael, or should I go ahead and tie a bow on it?
Yeah, and I just appreciate everybody's time and attention and great questions. And just echoing what Erin said, if there's any way we can help y'all out with site-specific issues, we're happy to do so, and don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, a big thanks in return to Erin, Michael, and the entire AQUALIS team for making today's webinar possible. And of course, thank you to everyone in the audience for both your attendance and participation. As you can see here on the final slide, we'll leave you with a few upcoming live webinars. We're currently in the midst of our Compliance Compass webinar series. It continues tomorrow with Module 3, Inspection Techniques, and concludes next Thursday, November 19th, with Module 4, Lessons Learned. The first two modules, Contract Approaches and Proper Planning, are now available on demand, so it's never too late to save 20% and earn 4 PDH.4 CEU with our full series bundle. And then we have Ethics 101, Workplace Strategies for Ethical Challenges. That's on Tuesday, November 24th, followed by our Living Shorelines webinar mini-series on December 2nd and 3rd, which features another 20% savings bundle. Simply click on these graphics in the PDF version of your slide deck to learn more and register today. And finally, we'd be remiss if we didn't thank you for your business, especially during these uncertain times in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. As the premier continuing education and training provider in the environmental and infrastructure related space, whose offerings are predominantly online, our goal throughout this worldwide crisis is to continue to provide you with the highest quality and most relevant for credit educational content, while you may not be able to travel to in-person events. So we'd encourage you to browse our full catalog of more than 300 live and on-demand virtual products, including course subscriptions, 2-for-1 specials, series, books and reports, and much more. All that at our official online home, that's foresteruniversity.net. And on behalf of Forester University and AQUALIS, thank you and have a safe and healthy rest of your day and week.